of the Village Council of Friendship Heights to order. It's 7 o'clock, and we're going to continue with the items from last month's agenda as a result of the adjournment during that meeting. So we have first the items that were deferred from the January 13th council meeting, and we'll move into old business and a discussion and vote on changes to the village bylaws. Let me preface this by saying only part of what I mentioned during the last meeting, which is that as I've tried to use the bylaws, I've found many of them out of date. Some of them are unhelpful, it can be confusing, or lacking sufficient detail to be useful. And that in talking with some past and present council members, they have suggested amending the bylaws. My reason for placing this item on the agenda with the changes that I've suggested is simply to begin a discussion about them at some point, to show other council members my thinking about the bylaws. I'm not invested in everything that's here. As I mentioned in the opening remarks last month, they are in some cases simple and in some cases complex. Simple is in the eyes of the beholder. Complex is in the eyes of the beholder as well. My thinking for this meeting is that if, after having had 2 meetings to look at these proposed changes, anybody would like to propose that we adopt any of them, we could consider the adoption of one or more of these. And let me first see whether there is anybody who would like to do that before.
Chairman, may I make
Yes.
a comment? It is very helpful to me as secretary if we again use the identify by voice, because it shows up on the transcript
Sure.
as sort of speaker one, speaker.
Would you like to identify yourself?
I can identify myself.
Please do.
And I have a motion to make concerning the agenda, which I will do after we identify ourselves. Martha Solt, I'm secretary. Thank you.
Roy Schaefer, treasurer.
Michael Amizi.
Melanie White, Mayor.
Bobby Pestronk, Chairman.
Cheryl Tyler.
Daniel R.
Okay, as I mentioned, I'd like to continue the discussion from the last meeting, which began at the last meeting, and see whether there is anyone. Yes, Councilman Measy.
I think it's clear from what I've heard that almost all of these have people willing to discuss them and probably need a committee discussion either in the plenary session or in a special council meeting of some sort, as we talked about originally. I just sort of to get a little momentum here, I'd like to propose that the amendments listed as number 1 and number 10 be approved, just as a matter of housekeeping. Number 1, changing the title of the bylaws to the correct title rather than the earlier title. And number 10, doing away with the reference to a billboard for posting meetings when we don't have a billboard anymore. It seems to me that those 2 things should be as non-controversial as possible, and so I would move that we accept those two amendments.
Is there support for that motion?
Can I just ask if you would be amended to that?
Well, let me see whether first there's support for
sorry.
it, because
I'm
if there's no support, then there's nothing to discuss. Okay, so,
So I would ask if you would amend that to discuss and vote on them separately.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Okay.
yes, Councilwoman Salt.
I would like to amend proposal number 2 when we get to it. So are we doing proposal number 1 first?
What we have on the table right now is a motion to consider separately bylaw change number 1 and 10. That's it. So is there any further discussion about the motion that's on the table?
I assume we're doing
One
1
at a time.
and then
One
10
and
on
then 10.
separate votes.
Yes. I assumed that you concurred with
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I just want to be clear,
Yep.
Councilmember Mizzi, is your proposal that we only consider those two tonight?
I'm making that proposal. We can,
Okay.
if somebody else wants to suggest something else afterwards.
So that's part of the proposal, to only consider one?
No,
offense?
I'm suggesting
Oh.
that we do these two, and my view, not in the motion, is that we should probably defer the others to a more comprehensive discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I'm trying to get clarification, so are we dealing with just what Councilman Mizzi said, which is 1 and,
we're dealing first with proposed amendment 1, which deals with the title of the bylaws, and then we will separately take up item number 10.
okay, thank you.
Okay? Is there any further discussion? So then I'll call for a vote, and we'll do it separately again. And I want to ask the secretary whether she understands the motion, what we're voting on.
I think I do, but I have a question. Are you going to sort of read aloud what the change is?
Yeah.
Which is from our book, or, I mean, I can see it.
I think, for-
I don't think, do I need to write it out
no,
as
for
part
the
of the
record,
motion?
Bobby, why don't you read it out?
Okay, I will do that.
Mhm.
So, with respect to amending the bylaws, it's to amend the title to read Bylaws of the Friendship Heights Village Council, elected governing body for the special tax district of the village of Friendship Heights. And the villages of Friendship Heights, and the present bylaws reference the villages of Friendship Heights and the Hills.
Just to be clear, so the motion is to strike the words "the Hills" from the title.
Yes,
Correct.
and Councilman Mizzi, I wonder whether you want to suggest that your motion is the special tax district of the village of Friendship Heights.
I'm fine with the suggested wording.
Okay? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Can I have a roll call vote here?
Yes.
Mr. R?
Yes.
R4, Mizzi?
Yes,
Mizzi 4, Schaefer?
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Sold 4, Tyler
Yes.
4, White
Yes.
4, Pestrunk
Yes.
4. Thank you.
7-0. The motion carries. We'll move on to then proposed amendment number 10. It's to amend the bylaws, Article 4, Sections 1 and 4, and Article 6, Section 3, to no longer reference postings of village address and phone number and other announcements of official business on the Hubert H. Humphrey Friendship Park bulletin board at the corner of the Hills Plaza and South Park Avenue, and instead say, meeting and other official notices shall be posted on the village website and via other methods approved by the council. Is there a motion to?
I made the motion.
Yes, okay.
It's been seconded,
Yeah,
so-
it's been seconded. So is there any
Okay.
discussion? Thank
I'd
you.
like to amend the motion
Please.
to add the language, "A meeting notice and agenda shall be posted online or published by other means," for Article 4, Section 1, Article 4, Section 4, posted online or published by other means, striking posted on the Hubert H. Humphrey Friendship Park Bulletin Board, and Article 6, Section 2, permanently posted online, and later official announcements shall be posted online or published by other means. That language comes from the Maryland guidance on the Open Meetings Act. So the real purpose of posting a lot of these things is to comply with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, and I thought it would be easier just to use their exact language.
Councilman Maisy, is there, someone wants to support that?
I have a question.
Okay. Is there support for that amendment? Okay. Councilwoman Tyler.
Okay, so that's a total different wording because what we have, if I'm not mistaken from what Councilmember Measy said, so are we removing approved by the council? If so, then it's a whole different amendment. So I didn't hear that. That's why I'm asking the question.
Do I have the floor to respond to that?
Would you,
Was
like
she
to?
asking me directly?
I'm asking in general. Anybody want to answer?
okay, so I guess through me, yes, please do respond.
I'll just be extra clear. I'll just say adding language and striking your proposed language, okay? Adding language, a meeting notice and agenda shall be posted online or published by other means. Striking your proposals with the language, an agenda shall be provided to each council member as well as posted on the Hubert H. Humphrey Friendship Park Bulletin Board. And then it continues with at least 2 days in advance. That's for the first one. The second one, adding posted online or published by other means, striking posted on the Hubert H. Humphrey Friendship Park Bulletin Board. The third, the Article 6, Section 2 reads, official announcements shall be posted online or published by other means in a timely manner, and striking on the northwest corner of the intersection of the Hills Plaza and South Park Avenue. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to replace the language in this Open Meetings Act guidance
Right.
for this language.
So I wonder whether for clarity, you might just state how it would read rather than strike
Okay,
and,
sure. Article 4, Section 1. No change with the first sentence, no change with the second sentence. The third sentence, a meeting notice and agenda shall be posted online or published by other means at least 2 days in advance of any regular meeting. And the last sentence, no change. Do you want me to read it again?
yes, please,
Just the change sentence, okay?
as it would,
Right.
as it would be,
A meeting notice and agenda shall be posted online or published by other means at least 2 days in advance of any regular meeting, period.
tell me again, a meeting notice shall be,
A meeting notice and agenda
yep,
shall be posted online
okay,
or published by other means at least 2 days in advance of any regular meeting, period.
okay. So, Councilman Maisy, you made the motion? That's fine, okay.
Should I move on to the next one? or you
No,
want-
why don't we deal with that one
Okay.
first? If everybody's, go ahead.
So that just to be clear, I'm happy to support that. I will note that, first off, I think the guidance provides a floor. The way that language doesn't articulate how those other means will be identified and who will get to decide them. The proposed language here, even if we make the other means, the approved by the council adds a process by which we would identify those other means. This is more general and will lead to follow-up questions as to how we accomplish that. If the council's comfortable with that, I don't have a strong objection, but it does seem to me that I appreciate the interest in aligning with the requirements as long as we meet them as a minimum. Our language seems to go beyond that to add more structure, more transparency.
If I could share another way of looking at that is, over time, other means may become available, and we wouldn't have to change our bylaws to accommodate them. But I understand your point.
Yeah, and I think the approved by the council just gives us the mechanism, as those other means come online, the council says, oh, I'm comfortable with that as a mechanism. The language as you've proposed it doesn't describe who gets to decide what those other means are or how we identify them. Again, I'm just highlighting that gap. I'm fine either way.
Mayor White?
I'm a little bit reluctant to remove village website because online just sounds awfully vague. Can we say online, parentheses, village website? Because I don't think we should miss a chance to promote our website.
Okay,
And
would you be comfortable with online on the village's website?
something along those
Every time
lines.
it's the word online, we add on the village's website.
I
Does that
think
address the?
something to get village website in there. So for a new resident, they're not thinking online, wonder where that is. So,
Okay,
Me-
so
Means the same to me.
does anybody object to either the change that was suggested by Councilman R. or the change that has been suggested by Mayor White? Okay. Does anyone want the language for the bylaw read with those changes, or everybody? Okay,
I'm
please.
sorry, I'm a little unclear whether Councilmember R was a suggestion or a formal amendment about putting the council language in.
Sure, I'm happy to propose as approved by the council after other means.
By other means, as approved.
Is there support for that, if you'd like to?
I'll accept that I think I made the amendment, I accept my amendment being changed. I'm sorry, I already lost track. As approved by the council, right? Is that what you said?
That's right.
Okay.
Just for clarity's sake, if there is a proposed amendment and we're seeking a motion, then it would need a second in order to be there. But I'm comfortable as the chair moving along with the process. So would you read the proposed language as you have it now?
Again, only starting with the change.
Just
Okay, the
as
sentence that
as it
changes.
would read in the
Right.
bylaw.
A meeting notice and agenda shall be posted online on the village's website or published by other means as approved by the council, period.
Does everybody understand the motion, which is to accept that as the new bylaw? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Would you like to call a roll?
Yes, please. Mr. R?
Yes.
For Mizey?
Yes.
For Schaefer?
Yes.
For Sold? For Tyler?
Yeah.
Tyler for White?
yes,
White for Pestrunk?
4.
Pestrunk for
The count is
7.
7 to 0.
4.
Okay.
And there, looks like there are 2 other changes in your proposed number 2. I mean, proposed number 10.
So do you have language you'd like to propose
Mm-hmm.
there? Okay.
Assuming, can I?
Yes, please.
Assuming that the language you're going to propose aligns with the open meetings requirements is in the first one, could I just move that we agree to conform the language in those other 2 locations to the agreed upon language in the first instance and move on?
I would say yes, but there's a slight twist on the third one, if I could share what it is. I think we can say permanently posted online on the village's website, and then later where we say online or published by other means as approved by the council. Will that work?
Yes.
Does that work for you?
Yes, so,
Do you want me to read it again?
yes,
I'm
would you read
sorry.
it?
Okay. The address and telephone number of such office shall be permanently posted online on the village's website and shall be on village stationery. Official announcements shall be posted online or published by other means as approved by the village council in a timely manner.
Okay. So that's your motion. Is there support for that? Yes? Okay, is there any discussion about that? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Madam Secretary?
Yeah. R?
Yes.
R4, Mizey? Yes. Mizey 4, Schaefer?
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Solt 4, Tyler?
Yes.
Tyler 4, White?
yes.
4, Pestrunk?
Yes.
4. So those are 3 motions related to your proposals 1 and 10. Actually, 4 related to motions 1 and 10, but the third motion included 2.
Okay, so let me then, with respect to this item on the agenda, suggest that we leave it to the mayor to determine in what form the council might meet, if there is any interest in meeting outside of this forum or a council meeting, or to accept, as the bylaws would require, an expression of interest in a special meeting of the council in one form or another to consider the bylaws. And that will be a way of testing, in either case, either the mayor's judgment or by 4 members of the council, whether we should continue this discussion about the bylaws in one form or another. Are there any objections to that?
When you say continue, what, are you talking about a public meeting? You talking about a council meeting? Because I'm not
It would be
clear.
up to the mayor, or it would be up to 4 members of council to propose it in a manner and form that's consistent with the village bylaws. And the bylaws reference a number of different types of meetings, special meetings, work sessions, and they are subject to, in their own particular form, the Open Meetings Act.
And is that with an eye on resolving this in this council session, or making recommendations for the next council session?
It would depend upon either the mayor's judgment or on 4
Okay.
council members offering
So-
or asking that some form of special meeting be convened.
So you're only talking about a meeting to discuss and for no other purpose?
It's up to the
Okay.
mayor.
Okay.
Or it's up to 4 members of council to say, we'd like to have this scheduled. Anybody have any objections to that? And Mayor White? You're comfortable with it? Okay, so that will take us on to a discussion vote on Parks and Grounds Committee recommendation regarding the committee charter. You have the proposed charter in your book. Let me see, this is a recommendation that's coming from the Parks and Grounds Committee to adopt the draft charter. Is there a motion to adopt it?
I'll move to adopt the charter.
Councilman R. moves to adopt it. Is there support for that? Thank you. Councilman Mazie. It's been moved and supported, moved by Councilman R. and supported by Councilman Mazie to adopt the proposed charter that's in the book. Is there discussion? Yes,
Yeah,
Councilman
so
Schaefer.
as the Parks member who voted no, I'd like to give an explanation. I think this is just another solution looking for a problem. I don't think there's ever been an issue where, if not for having a charter, we could have avoided a problem. So I just don't think we need to do that. I think the bylaws cover the creation of committees, and so I don't support this motion. I didn't at the committee level. I'm not going to now.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Councilman R.?
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's value in adding some clarity to the expectations of the committees, both for the members of the committee, knowing kind of what they mutually agreed upon and what the village is asking them to do, what the council's asking them to do, and for the other members of the council to know what to expect coming out of those committees. I can't say with 100% confidence this is the perfect solution, but I think it's important to start a conversation and putting something out for operation for a little while and reaction, maybe serving as a model for other committees to think about how they might operate and bring to the council their expectations. If other committees end up doing it differently or, better in a way that suits the Parks and Grounds Committee, I think we can certainly revisit this. I think there's flexibility in the document to allow for that amendment, but I think we need to start a conversation about what we're expecting from the several kind of organs of this council, and this is, I think, a way to start that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Solt.
I understand, and those are good points. In an ideal world, I think that would be true. The reality, I think committees need to be flexible to be able to deal with the conditions that arise at that time. I find charters to be, at least in my past life, very limiting, and it takes way too much time and energy to change just for the purpose of a piece of paper complying with what you're doing. So that's why I understand different people have different views, but I don't support this.
Thanks. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question to adopt the Parks and Grounds Committee charter, moved by Councilman Arr and supported by Councilman Measy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye.
No?
Okay. Councilman Schaefer, did you vote?
I'm waiting for the roll call.
Okay.
Okay.
The motion carries.
R,
Yes.
R4, Measy. Yes. Measy 4, Schaefer.
No.
Schaefer against, Solt against, Tyler.
4.
Tyler 4, White.
Yes.
White 4, Pestrunk
4.
4. So that's 5-2.
Thank you very much. The motion carries. That will move us on to a discussion vote on providing bonuses for off-duty Montgomery County Police Department officers. Councilwoman Tyler.
Good evening. Back several months ago, we've been pushing this back more and more and delaying this. The committee had discussed doing bonuses for the holidays, as this was their first year in the off-duty program, and from the comments we got from citizens and businesses and residents were happy. They did a very good job, and so we wanted to give them a bonus at the end of the year. Well, we're well past that, and the money is in the budget, and we would still like to give them a bonus for the work that they did out of, it's a small bonus, it's not a large bonus. And we would just still like to show our appreciation. And Village Manager Julian, pardon me, and with the committee had discussed this a while back, like I said, back in November, I think it was, or October, somewhere back, way back. So we're still trying to do this, and we'd like to get your support to show appreciation to them. And again, there is money in the budget in the line item for them to have this.
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there support for that motion? Okay.
I'm sorry, could you give me word for word what the motion is so I can get it right?
To provide a bonus to the off-duty Montgomery County Police for their work that they did last year.
Would it be appropriate in the motion to specify the amounts of money if we're,
The total came to, I believe Julian talked with Lieutenant Ari Elkin, and it was a total of 12 people or 5 people. Julian?
It was a total of 11 people for a total cost of $9,000. So there are 3 officers that Lieutenant identified in the first tier, and the other 8 officers in the second tier, with the differing amounts for the 2 of them that you see in the Friday memo, for a collective total of $9,000. Those officers were identified by Lieutenant as being deserving of the bonus.
Chairman, could I just restate the motion so everyone's clear?
Would you like to have it restated, or what you have right now to make sure?
I want to make sure.
Okay.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay? To provide a bonus to off-duty Montgomery County Police officers for work performed last year for 11 people totaling $9,000. Is that a correct statement? Okay.
Okay. So there's been a motion to, sorry? Yeah, there's been a motion and second to,
I'm sorry, who seconded again?
Mayor White did.
Okay, got it.
To support provide the bonus for off-duty Montgomery police officer for 11 officers at $9,000, at a cost of $9,000. Any further discussion? Councilman Orr?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Does that 11 represent all of the officers that worked for us over the course of the last year?
No, it's, I would say most of them, but not all of them. There were several that did not work that many shifts, kind of came and went, but it's basically the core group that was consistently here.
And do we have a sense of the criteria he used to put those individuals into the two tiers? Was it a hour, they worked a certain number of hours or days and they were in tier 1 or tier 2?
I think it's mainly the hours, that there were 3 that worked a little more, more consistently, had more hours than the other in the second group.
Yes, it was. It was more those, there's one guy that I see all the time. I used to see all the time, I'm sorry. And it was based on how many of them worked more times and more often in the community than others. And as Julian said, there were some who may have worked 1 time or 2 times, so they weren't included in that category.
Go ahead.
I'll just say, I'm a little bit concerned about the prospect of providing bonuses for contract employees, particularly when at the outset we didn't identify the behavior that would have, qualified any one of them for additional compensation. I appreciate the motivation, and the fact that we're kind of at an inflection point with this program, I think further reinforces my thinking that this may not be the best idea for us in this year, and we can kind of think about this as a lesson learned for future relationships for these security services. So I think that's what I'm thinking at the moment.
Other discussion? Yes, Councilwoman Salt.
I think that dispersing taxpayer dollars to contractors, any contractors, in the form of a bonus is not fiscally responsible and breaches our fiduciary duty. There is no legal obligation to pay for nothing beyond, we got nothing beyond what we contracted for originally. The individuals are contractors, they're not employees. The proposal was described as a payment in lieu of a salary increase. They're contractors, they do not get salaries. This is, again, the blurring the very important distinctions between contractors and employees. Contractors do not receive salaries, and contractors receive what is in the written agreement. I think it's also a dangerous precedent. Will our other contractors be expecting bonuses? And my experience in the government, contractors do not receive bonuses, they don't receive tips, they don't receive gratuities. And this whole concept was conceived after the work was already completed. It wasn't, I think Council Member R kind of said it maybe a different way, but it was not created as an incentive to work for, where the behaviors are explained and it's an aspirational goal. So I really think this is not a good idea, and it's actually an example of bad government.
Other comments or discussion? Yes, Councilman Tyler.
I don't know where to begin, but this was talked about in our meetings, and this was the legality behind it was discussed with our attorney to see if we could give a bonus as an appreciation. There's no precedence being set. It was a token that we were giving them. It was included. And there's no discussion about salaries at all because they were not employees. And if there's a comparison, in my time with the federal government where I worked, contractors were given bonuses. So I would not use the federal government's guidelines and wherever any of us have worked to relegate that to compare with what goes on in the village. We are not federal employees, nor are we federal volunteers here.
Is there further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Councilman Schaefer.
these are notes I prepared before the meeting, so they may overlap a bit with Councilmember R's and Salt's comments, but The idea that we're under budget as a justification, for me, that's kind of a non-starter. The budget, if we're under budget on legal, we don't think about a tip for our lawyer. If we're under budget on landscaping, we don't talk about it. The budget is for what was anticipated to hire them as independent contractors, and the fact that we're under doesn't justify a payment for something completely different. The fact that it's legal also is not a justification. It just means we're allowed to do it. It doesn't mean we should do it. This is not something that's normally done. I've asked the village manager if he can recall an instance where we've ever tipped a contractor, and he was not aware of any, so it would be setting a precedent. I wrote, it's not appropriate for a government to give police officers a gratuity, or any contractor, that was not part of the agreement or ever anticipated in the agreement. And the thing I would say that bothers me most about this idea was discussed at the last at least 2 public safety committee meetings. There was never a recommendation voted out of the committee. And it's very upsetting to me that I'm not even sure who's making this recommendation, because it's not a committee recommendation. So where is the recommendation from the committee on something that was discussed in multiple meetings? And I'm not even clear who's making this, and if it is Councilmember Tyler, why isn't the committee standing behind this recommendation?
We can continue to go down the Weevil wording of things, and you have attended a few meetings, and the bottom line is, it's a motion on the floor. You can vote it down. It's very clear. You have no positive feelings about it, so there's no need to keep going back and forth. So just, it's at a vote, so vote.
Yeah, well, every council member has a right to express their opinion before the
They
vote,
have.
so I know, now, that's the case. Is there any, one more time, Councilmember
Yeah,
Zolt?
I would just like to say, I did check, and Montgomery County does not pay bonuses to contractors either. That's a policy they have.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. No, I think if everyone understands it, then it doesn't need to be read again. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
All those abstaining? Okay, please call the roll, yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. The motion carries 4-3. Thank you. That takes us to response to comments on off-duty police report. Council Member Tyler.
Yes, thank you. This is something we've been trying to get back to, but again, due to continued delays, not by us. This is regarding a report that was done back in July of 2024. The Public Safety Committee has reviewed 2 council members' critiques of the July 2024 report and recommendations from the Public Safety Committee on the use of off-duty Montgomery County police officers to enhance village safety. We find much of the critique misinformed. Parts of the critiques employ unfortunate but also potential legal and liable innuendos. One section of the critique borders on personal slander, also subject to potential legal liability. Legal advice was sought in all situations. The most important outcome in legal conversations was the entire council was not heard as part of these comments, and if legal issues were to move forward, only the council members involved in this unfortunate but the reality of the state we are in situation. The committee understands the critique to mean that off-duty officers shouldn't be one of the amenities offered to the village residents. We obviously disagree, as do some residents and villages and businesses of the village. As noted below, the committee sought to reflect on the use of the officers and on other activities of the committee. As pointed out in the report, the full council voted unanimously for the current fiscal year's budget. The budget included the line item for off-duty police officers. This discussion, that line item was robust in both the Finance Committee and the council meetings. The intent of the committee's report was not to address overall safety within the village. As it clearly states, the focus on the report was on the work of the off-duty Montgomery County police officers. The report does, however, address other areas of public safety on which the Public Safety Committee successfully focused on during its first year. This included lighting within and beyond village boundaries. Data from the Montgomery County Police Department referenced in the report was provided by the Police Department, not the Public Safety Committee. These are factual data, that information, and not something the committee made up. Data from other communities were referenced to provide points of contrast with the village, in arguing that off-duty police within the village should be discontinued. One of the points of reference provided by one council member was a report from a neighboring community that, should be noted, was not fully and accurately reported. Plus, the comparison of only one community that is nothing like the village was inappropriate. Council members, like residents who are interested in what goes on in the PSC meetings, should participate and physically attend, and participate, not just video and texting to one another throughout these meetings, along with trying to change documents that the committee has written and wanted input from village employees to ensure we had the correct information on what they contributed and what we were presenting. This and more are done in secret because you don't want the PSC's work, voice, and information to be accurately shared with the public. The village manager and the Public Safety Committee members have and continue to meet with several community leaders and counterparts who are similar in boundary makeup to discuss some of their challenges, solutions, and understand the value municipalities derive from the police presence. The PSC does not live nor operate in a bubble, as some are trying to portray to the residents of the village. Working with the village manager, assistant manager, and the finance representative for the overall village, the Public Safety Committee openly and publicly stated goals for the year was to improve the overall safety of village residents. The committee's recommendations in the report grew off the off-duty program's first year's experience. These recommendations were made based upon public meetings with village residents, with representatives from village businesses, and buildings with the Friendship Heights Business Alliance, with neighboring communities and police forces, and comments from village council members. These were internal PSC's goals, recommendations, suggestions, benchmarks, and were internal checks for the committee members only. Public safety is a complex issue. It is not a yes or a no. It is not a check of the box. It is just not in just black and white. The PSC is in concert with the village manager, seeks to strike a balance across the complexity, always keeping the safety of the village residents as its highest priority. The collaboration and the joint efforts of several law enforcement entities and business leaders take its work seriously, acts deliberately, publicly, and in response to village residents and businesses. We question with vehemently object to the need of two council members to protest the committee's work as wrong, wrong-headed, immoral, illegal, of little value, and an unjustifiable expense. The location of the village increases vulnerability and requires a deliberately planned safety program enhanced by strong partnerships with police and Montgomery County officials. The village has financial resources to fully fund the off-duty police officers program, and the prerogative to adjust are in the program, if necessary. The village uses off-duty officers, quote, under reasonable circumstances in the best interest of the public safety. The use is legal. The village feels negative effects of an unstaffed county police program and shares safety concerns of surrounding communities. The off-duty police program is just one of the many ways the village is enhancing public safety. Village officials communicate effectively with individuals' officers, enhancing relationships with county police and other county departments. Off-duty police officers prioritize safety concerns of village residents in relation to the shift times and focus. The public safety program in the village must be built on mutual feeling of trust and desire to work together among elected officials, staff, police, and village residents and businesses. The public safety conducts regular public meetings to solicit ideas, hear experiences, and inform residents about safety programs and measures. Council members are all invited and should all participate and physically attend these meetings and not just text each other and video and send them back to each other. We really do appreciate everyone's idea of how we can do better, be better, and work together collectively in moving the village forward. And this is the response to that report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move us on then to Chair's announcements. Yes. I'm not going to entertain any comments on this. We've had a report. We've had a response. We've had a response. This was to have a response at this meeting. If you have a comment to make, please.
My comment is just
Suggest it.
thank you for the comments, and I stand by my well-sourced
Thank you.
statements.
So we're going to move on to the Chair's announcements now. First, chaos. These are increasingly hard and chaotic times, intentionally invoked, forecast, but hard to prepare for nonetheless. Among the distressed, stressed, scared, and overwhelmed are many federal employees, contractors, and employees of organizations doing business with the federal government. Some of my colleagues on the village council, our family members and friends, neighbors we know and don't know, others who live, visit, or work in the village of Friendship Heights. Regardless of whether we fall in one of those categories, we may have been or will be affected by the flurry of executive orders issued by the president and by the resulting chaos that has ensued. Nearly all of it is overwhelming by design. It's one result of November's elections and those who have been enabled by those results. It's awful and having an impact on millions of lives. There may well be residents of the village who are pleased with the current turn of events. I know that I am not, and I'll do what I can to continue to make the village a safe, welcoming, and thriving community for those who live and work here. I suspect that's the case for other members of the council and for most village residents. Second, Black History Month. It is, nonetheless, still Black History Month, despite systemic efforts to have us forget about historical and present racism and other isms which have effectively disadvantaged and continue to disadvantage people of color. It remains this month a time to highlight the extraordinary contributions of Black Americans in all walks of life over time and currently. Awareness of their experiences and contributions doesn't diminish us. The worst of America is the result of these isms. The best of America would be diminished without the contributions and lives of Black Americans. Their personal experiences are profoundly different from those of white Americans. Learning more about those experiences can be surprising. They may change our understanding about our own experiences and those of others. That understanding can improve the lives of all Americans. In that regard, please take note of the village's displays in the hallway and, with me, look forward to a robust Juneteenth celebration. We also have begun Chinese New Year. The village sponsored an event last week which was well attended, especially by those interested in Tai Chi in its various forms. Many village residents who study the form here at the center participated in the celebration. And once again, village staff produced a delightful event which included fellowship, food, an opportunity to meet many county, state, and federal elected officials, as well as a performance of segments of Sleeping Beauty by members of the Maryland Ballet Company. I want to extend my thanks to Anne, Dale, Hector, Sandra, and other village staff for making these events possible. Please visit the village website and on it the Development Committee webpage. There you can read the proposal adopted by the County Planning Board at its meeting last week. You'll find details about next steps in the adoption by County Council of a new sector plan for the village of Friendship Heights. The County Planning Board approved recommendations about the scope, the process, and timelines to complete the plan. The boundaries for the plan and its study area are broader than some thought they would be. Also, I recommend listening to the recordings of the meeting, which is on the County Planning Department's website. There are a few surprises. Some notes about the rest of tonight's agenda. Committee reports are not listed. Residents are invited to attend committee meetings, read the minutes of committee meetings, read the monthly village newsletter, which is distributed to all buildings and available at the village center. One may also talk with the village manager or committee members to learn more about committee discussions and decisions. Agendas are posted online. Please sign up if you aren't already to receive these notices. And 4 council members also regularly make themselves available by appointment to speak with residents about anything that is on the mind of residents, including what goes on in committees they attend. The village manager's report has been moved earlier in the agenda tonight. Over many months, during public comment session at each village council meeting, residents pose questions which aren't immediately answered. There are several reasons for this. For example, council time to conduct official business, which must be conducted at monthly meetings, is limited. As another example, sometimes there's an absence of consensus on a best answer. While we have each sworn an oath to execute and employ our skills and judgment diligently and faithfully without partiality or prejudice to the best of our ability, we do have differences of opinion and interpretations of one or another situation based upon our personal experience, temperaments, and knowledge. It's hard to provide an official response to questions given these differences. But some questions can be answered at subsequent council meetings and through other means. I've asked the village manager then to respond to questions posed at previous meetings for which there is an objective and factual answer from his position as one with day-to-day oversight for the village affairs. For example, he can brief us all on the status of Page Park. But with the village manager's report, no one will have to use part of their 3 minutes to ask for an update. His report will be just that, a report. In the interest of time, his report won't be followed by an opportunity for conversation between those attending the meeting and him. And as I noted earlier in my comments, answers may often be found through other methods. One last change, the council will not be considering the item listed as discussion vote on recommendation from Parks and Grounds Committee for signage in village parks tonight. Background material for council members was not available for council members to review in advance of the meeting. This item will appear on March's council meeting. Thank you, and let's move on to the village manager's report. Village Manager Mansfield.
Thank you for that introduction. And I also wanted to add, I'm also addressing just regular questions that I've received from residents, not necessarily public comments at a council meeting, but just things they've been asking me about. So one is the police incident that occurred last Tuesday evening, the attempted carjacking and shooting, and there was some confusion from some folks about what had been circulated by the police. So just to clarify, the victim was the owner of the car who was driving the car. The perpetrator shot the victim. The perpetrator was attempting to steal the car. It was not a successful attempt, so it was listed as an attempted carjacking and shooting. The person who was shot was taken to the hospital with what is described as non-life-threatening injuries and is expected to recover. And the perpetrator fled the scene and is still at large. So this is still an active investigation. And we have cooperated by turning over some some video clips of the camera. We have a camera at the corner of South Park and Hills Plaza, which did not capture the incident directly, but captured kind of the periphery of it and did have some audio that was helpful in sort of determining the time of the incident. We also recommended that the police contact the Highland House apartment building and review the camera footage for the camera that they have, which was much closer to the scene of the crime. They have a camera right by their loading dock and garage entrance on the Hills Plaza, which is about where this happened. Page Park, we do have some news from Page Park with our architect. We have engaged an architect to respond to the required elements from the county, and in the process of his work, he has determined that after surveying the park, that he has found some areas of non-compliance with the ADA, with the existing construction, the new construction. So he will be notifying us with a summary and a proposal for addressing these issues. This is beyond the scope of work that he was originally hired for, so this will be an additional cost to the village, which we would then be deducting from whatever we owe Green Sweep at the end per the approved agreement and amended agreement. There are several areas of non-compliance that he has identified and will be notifying us formally. Also, the ADA compliance form that was suggested by DPS, by Montgomery County, our architect feels that that form is not correct, not appropriate, and instead we should be officially addressing the non-compliance issues for the ADA. So that is in motion. We expect a proposal from the architect along with his report. We're expecting it actually by the end of this week is the latest that we've heard on that. Red House, can't quite officially announce, but we are very close to being able to say that we are done with the lease negotiations as of actually Friday afternoon. We've had an extended period of back and forth with our attorney and the tenant's attorney on a range of issues with the lease, which have just been resolved. There was a change in the term of the lease, which the tenant requested, and we have approved. So with that having been resolved, we expect to get a final lease for signature shortly, and then we can announce that the tenant is all set, and we can continue with the renovations and improvements that our contractor will be doing, and the tenant will also have a lot of improvements that they need to do in the kitchen area as well. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Village Manager Mansfield. Councilmember Schaefer? Do you have a question for him, or are you wanting to make a statement?
Jeffrey, I could put it in the form of a question. So I just want to, and we had an email exchange earlier, so thank you for that. So the architect is saying that, just to be clear, that the ADA compliance form, he doesn't recognize that it applies. He considers the park to be a new renovation. And it's not that he has maybe a couple of tweaks on the form or a problem with the math. He just thinks the park is a new renovation, and which would mean every part of the park must be made accessible. Is that a fair statement?
He hasn't used those exact words, but he said the ADA compliance form is not appropriate. He's not comfortable signing it. Instead, there are non-compliance areas of non-compliance with the ADA that he will identify and let us know, and then he'll develop a proposal for addressing those.
So there's no timetable, there's no cost, there's no, at this point,
We're-
we don't have that.
We're expecting a proposal with some costs by the end of the week, but the timetable is unclear.
And just to be clear, because not everyone knows this, this has to be resolved before other inspections or experts or rule, whatever you want to call it, can be done on the park.
Yes.
Okay.
Count? Yes,
okay.
you have more? other questions?
No, if I can make a comment, I just wanted to
Let me
acknowledge.
just see whether other council members have questions before. Yes, Council Member Tyler.
I just wanted to ask the question for clarity. You said that he does not agree with or accept this particular ADA document? And if he doesn't accept this one, how many are there out there? And which one does he like?
This is the form that was recommended by the DPS officials that we were working with. They said, in order to show your compliance with the ADA for this project, this is the form you use, and it was a form related to project costs. If you have spent a certain percentage of your total project costs on accessibility improvements, then you have satisfied the ADA compliance requirements.
And
He finds that form to be not appropriate for this particular project because he considers it all to be new construction, and that form is for renovation or an alteration. So there is a difference between him and what we were told by DPS as to the appropriateness of the form. So instead, he is recommending that we address the non-compliance issues and notify the county and DPS that we are doing that as part of the whole process.
so we are going to notify the county that the architect is requiring us to do another form.
No.
It's not a form, it's going to be drawings
Drawings.
for complying.
So there are
In
other-
fact, I can actually, I can report, I meant to say earlier, one item that he's already identified is a landing is required at the base of the entrance ramp to the park.
Right.
So where the North Park sidewalk transitions into that ramp,
And that's okay.
there's an actual sort of structure landing that has to be built to comply with the ADA because of the length of the ramp, not the slope itself. He said the slope is compliant as is, but the length of the ramp requires a
That-
landing.
And that's fine. My concern is if he has a
Councilmember-
different, but it's the
Councilmember Tyler.
question.
Okay, just please ask question.
I'm asking,
Okay.
so whose document outweighs the other one? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, the architect says the ADA has to be complied with, and it's not in its current state. So, and I connected him with the DPS, and they said, based on the information they were given about the project, they recommended this form.
So are there other questions before I recognize people who'd like to make statements? Do you have a question?
I have a
Councilman
question.
Schaefer?
Well, a quick
Please.
comment. The architect is correct. It is a new construction. But my question is, Village Manager Mansfield, you made a comment we're going to be deducting the architect's fees from the final settlement with Green Sweep. That's our position. Green Sweep hasn't agreed to eat those costs. I just want to be clear on that. You made a comment we're going to be deducting it from what we.
Yeah, I understood they had agreed by virtue of the agreement that was amended,
So we
that
have.
they are responsible for all costs associated
But
with the project.
That's our position. I know they were negotiating. Have they agreed that we can deduct all these
Yeah.
costs
Okay.
and they will?
Yeah.
I understood that they had,
Yeah,
but
I think,
No.
I think there's been a comment that we should not be discussing legal advice or
Okay.
legal issues at the council meeting. Councilman R?
Okay.
Okay. Councilwoman Salt, and then Council.
Circle back to a quick question. You mentioned that you shared the videotapes with the police with this incident and that the audio was helpful. Isn't it in our policy that the village will disable audio on all recording devices? In our policy on video?
no, not that I know of. This particular camera does have audio, and it was very helpful to the police.
I think we need to check to make sure we're in compliance with our policy, or we change our policy, either one.
Thanks.
If we're not, we need to change it. If we want to do that, we need to change it and notify people, or follow the policy. Maybe we
Councilmember-
can follow up afterwards.
Councilmember Measy?
Julian, on the park, how does this affect the building permit that we were given by DPS?
This has turned into quite a Q&A. How does this affect the building permit? The building permit has been issued. The
Right.
building permit is finished, but the building permit required an inspection, which then led to these other items that we still have to address. And one of the items was that an architect has to complete the ADA compliance form, and the architect is refusing to do it because he says it's not a valid form. So it really isn't connected to the building permit itself. The building permit has been
The
approved
building
and issued.
permit stands at this
Yes,
point.
it's been previously issued and approved.
And just,
Councilman
But the
Schaefer.
building permit wasn't the end of the project. That was just that step that we had to do.
this was
Councilman
the,
Schaefer, I
thank you.
recognize you.
This
Yeah.
was the pre-construction permit. So just to be clear, it's the permit you normally get before you start construction. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, let's move on to, thank you, Village Manager Mansfield. Comments from the public to the council. I have two people who have signed up. The first is Al Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Village Council. This is Al Muller from the Elizabeth. As usual, let me begin with two positive comments. First, thank you, and especially Program Director Ann O'Neill, for the highly successful Winterfest, which was held on Saturday despite the bad weather. And second, thank you, Chairman Prestrunk, for your calm, professional conduct despite chairing a meeting under extremely provocative circumstances in January. Mr. Chairman, it was very disappointing to sit in the audience and see the meeting be hijacked by the treasurer, Mr. Schaefer, who falsely accused you of implying that he was an embezzler. I was at that committee meeting, and you never questioned Mr. Schaefer's honesty or hard work, and neither do I. At that committee's finance meeting in question, it was actually you, Chairman Prestrunk, who was attacked personally when Mr. Schaefer used the term liar when speaking about you. Once again, in the January financial report, Treasurer Schaefer did not inform our residents that we currently have about $3.5 million in reserves, with another $1 million deposit expected this May, for a total in reserves of $4.5 million, far more than needed for all the operating and capital expenses, including Poor Page Park, including the Red House. Instead, Treasurer Schaefer, at the last meeting, misleads the public by stating that we, the public, somehow will have a $350,000 deficit in the future. That's not true. That's simply not true, council members. And this is not the first time that our treasurer has used these public meetings as a launching pad to be critical of other council members. In November, he and Secretary Salt coordinated what I term as an attack on Security Chair Tyler, criticizing the police report, which she has had to defend today. I would point out that police report was not written by Councilwoman Tyler. They used, I listened to the tapes, they used the pejorative term corrupt. That is inappropriate and very offensive to people who are listening. So what's going on here? I think it's politics. I think the public should be aware that for the last several months, council members Schaefer and Holt have been secretly interviewing people to run with them in the May election, which is their prerogative. But I believe these constant, ongoing personal attacks are part of a political campaign to discredit the rest of the council. And those attacks undermine and delay the efforts of the council to do public business. So please, council members, take your politics elsewhere.
Thank you. Next is Santanu Vasu.
Hi there. I came to this meeting about 6 months ago, and I had a kind of bad experience coming back from the metro station, and there was not enough light. But soon after that, I got several calls from Chairman Bobby, and he really investigated the problem. He asked me a lot of questions about where the light was not there or not. And now, when I go to the metro, I see a lot more lights, so I feel very safe and all. So I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on the agenda are comments from the council. Are there comments that any council member would like to make? Yes, Councilmember Salt.
I have 4 points. The Climate Change and Environment Committee for the village requested that the village purchase 2 EV chargers for shared use, and that request is with the Finance Committee. Point number 2, salt. There is still way too much salt out on our sidewalks. Montgomery County has issued guidance to use much less salt and sweep up excess salt, put it in a container, and reuse it. But instead, people are sweeping it into the berm or other landscaped areas, basically salting our landscaping, which will kill it. So please, if we could all work together on that and maybe give a little guidance to the people whose jobs it is. The third quick issue is a new development in our community. The Maryland Building Energy Performance Standards are requiring high-rise residential buildings to be fully electrified by 2040 and reduce energy use by 60%. A lawsuit was filed in January challenging the law. There are 2 condominiums in our community, the Elizabeth and Willoughby, who have joined as plaintiffs. It's unclear whether rental building owners are represented because building owner associations are also plaintiffs. Without changes or a longer compliance period, changes are expected to be very costly for owners in all but one condo, and rental building owners will face higher costs. And finally, piggybacking on Chairman Pestrunk's comments, many in our community are worried about job cuts, and our federal employee neighbors, friends, children, maybe even grandchildren. And many are worried about potential cuts to retiree benefits. I too am worried and concerned. I share those concerns, and I'm willing to share what I know about this or talk to anybody outside of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Yes, Councilmember Schaefer.
So I'm not the first or second person to say this, but there are almost 80,000 federal employees in Montgomery County. I don't know the number for Friendship Heights. Obviously, it's a big chunk of that 80,000. That doesn't include federal contractors. It doesn't include others who receive support from government-funded programs. This is a very stressful and uncertain time for all of them. As a full-time federal employee, I'm living with those same challenges every single day. It's hard to go into work now every day, and that's really just, it's hard to get work done when you're worried about maybe getting fired or moved or laid off. And obviously we get our work done, but it's incredibly stressful. I know it is for a lot of people listening, and if anyone does want to contact me and share your experiences or talk about it, I'm one of the council members that has office hours by appointment, so I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there?
May I have 1 minute, please? I know this is unusual. 1 minute.
No, you may not.
Well, then I think you should have admonished somebody who made personal attacks on the treasurer.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there other comments from the council? Seeing none, mayor's announcements. Mayor White.
Thank you. The Montgomery County Department of Transportation will host an in-person public forum on Tuesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. to seek public feedback on proposed changes to several county ride-on bus routes. One of the proposed changes is for ride-on bus route 34, which runs from Friendship Heights to Bethesda and beyond. This route is proposed to be discontinued in Friendship Heights and moved to Connecticut Avenue and University Boulevard. Residents can also submit written comments regarding the proposed changes to the County Department of Transportation by Friday, February 28th. we were notified about this by a resident who is very upset about it, and I think that the council can send a letter indicating that we have residents here in Friendship Heights who are going to be highly impacted if this change goes through. For those of you who do not ride, the ride-on buses, Route 34 is ideal for people who are trying to do shopping between Friendship Heights and the Bethesda Metro. For example, if you want to go to Trader Joe's or that little Target or any of those shops between here and Bethesda. I think it's a bus route that many of our residents use, and as I said, we will be sending a letter notifying the county that this is going to have a big impact on our community if this bus route is indeed moved.
Yes, Council Member Tyler.
What street is it on, you said? It presently is on what?
Presently, it goes from Friendship Heights to, I don't know what the end stop is, but it goes along Wisconsin Avenue toward the Bethesda Metro. So anyone who's trying to get to a business or an office along Wisconsin and who are unable to walk, this bus route was the way to go.
And it's being eliminated as of?
There's a proposal to change it, to move it to Connecticut Avenue and University Boulevard.
And when is that projected to do?
Julian, do we know? I don't think they gave.
I don't believe they gave us
Yeah.
an actual implementation date, but it is being considered right now to basically eliminate that route in here and shift it up to Wheaton, Silver Spring.
So our response needs to be soon.
Yeah, the deadline is the 28th for public comment period.
Any other questions for Mayor White? That'll take us to the approval of the minutes for the January 13th council meeting. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes? It's been moved by Councilmember Salt. Is there support? Supported by Councilmember Maisy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
I see no need for a roll call on this, okay?
Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you. So I wasn't going to discuss my remarks at last month's meeting, but I would like to respond very quickly. Most of what I talked about last month was in response to comments Chairman Pestrark made at the December council meeting, not at a committee meeting. I'm not going to rehash those, but I would invite anyone to just watch the video. I documented every single thing I said. And I'll leave it at that, but I would like to express my gratitude to many people who did reach out to me afterwards and express support. I'll leave it at that. I also want to start and I wasn't planning on this, but when the idea that I was not being honest when I said we're having a deficit, as I've done many, many times, I'll give you a very simple definition. Next year, if you take what we plan on receiving, subtract our operating expenses, subtract our capital expenses, that is a negative number, period. That's math. That's what I'm referring to when I say a deficit, looking at all of our expenses, not just the operating expenses we show on our website. I don't know how else I can say it or how more clearly I can say it, but if you're taking in less cash than you're spending, most people would consider a deficit. And I'll probably have to say it again next month. So I want to talk about where we are in the budget process. We weren't able to have a finance committee meeting last month, or since the last council meeting because there were some scheduling issues. We have a finance committee meeting scheduled for February 27th, Thursday. Is that right? I'm sorry. February 27th, I believe, is the Finance Committee meeting.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes, so you're welcome to come, to ask questions, to make comments. I'm not, and I would welcome that. We're trying to get 2 meetings on the calendar for March, so we can finish the process, have a recommendation for a budget to vote on in April. That would also include a vote on the tax rates. I didn't know Councilmember Silt was going to discuss it, but there was a proposal we received for 2 charging stations at a cost of it was about $20,000. So we're going to be at the next Finance Committee meeting voting on that. And we are now at this point 7 months into our fiscal year, so I thought I would talk a little bit about where we are relative to our budget. On the income side, we are about $220,000 over what we had anticipated at this point. As we've discussed, that is almost entirely due to more than expected revenue from the village's share of Montgomery County income taxes they collect. Apparently, a handful of village residents had a very good year last year in the stock market and reported very substantial capital gains, and that kind of trickled down to us. That appears to be something of a one-off. For next year, we are projecting less income than we are expecting to receive this year. So we are sort of reverting to the mean, where our revenue has been going up slowly or been flat. On the expense side, we are about $90,000 below budget. Over a third of that is due to the fact that in November, we terminated the security patrol, so that expense obviously has dropped to 0 since that happened in November. We're saving money because after the budget was passed, we negotiated a lower parking enforcement contract, so we budgeted to the old contract. We're spending less on the new contract. There's a savings there. Some of the savings is just due to the fact that we budget expenses equally throughout the year, have not incurred the expense yet at all. An example of that is the payment to the League of Women Voters. So we've been expensing that a little bit, even though we never spent the money. So things like that will catch up to us by the end of the year. Where we're over on legal fees. That should not be surprising. We have a lot of additional legal fees relating to the Red House lease. We have a lot of additional legal fees relating to Page Park. And as I've said in the past, the only additional Page Park expenses we are showing in the operating budget are the legal fees. All the additional capital expenses like architect's fees, engineering fees, stormwater management fees, the village is paying those expenses. You will not see them on the expenses we show in our budget because they're not operating expenses, but they're real expenses, and we're spending real money on that. And to date, it's about $50,000. I think we've gone over the contract amount, and we're not close to being done. And finally, I'd like to talk about a topic I first discussed last month, which is our village investment policy. I mentioned last month I was going to start working on writing an investment policy. When I said that, I didn't think we had one. I'm not sure that.
Councilman Schaefer, I know that we have on the,
I'm not discussing my motion. I'm discussing my work on drafting an investment policy.
I know, but we
No.
have an item on the agenda which is related to the village investment
But
policies.
It's related, but I'm allowed to. This is my report, and I
So-
want to talk about our
Question.
investment
Yeah.
policy.
I have a question before you get into your policy on the treasury.
I have the floor. I'm talking. You can ask me when I'm done.
But you're going into another area.
I'm not. This is part of the treasurer's report, talking about investment policies. I talked about it last month during the treasurer's report, that I was going to draft one. So this is an update on that.
So do you have a brief update on it? On-
That's what I was giving.
Well, I mean, so you have drafted a policy?
I'd like to put in my words, not yours.
Yes, please do, but
Thank you.
please confine it to, if you would, with the recognition that we have a village investment policy discussion and a vote on that on the agenda
I'm not
already.
discussing the vote. I'm talking about the work I did on the investment policy. Can I continue?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I started to draft the investment policy, and what I found was we actually have one. It's 30 years old. It was drafted in 1995. Having an investment policy that's 30 years old is worse than having no policy. It was written for laws that no longer apply. There are reporting and disclosure requirements that are required to be made by village staff, by council members, and by the village. We have been ignoring all of those. We have not been making those disclosures. We have not been asking our employees to confirm that they are complying. One example is the village is required to report twice a year with the state treasurer certifying we are complying. I don't believe we've ever filed that report. And now that we are aware of this policy, going forward, we are in willful non-compliance if we don't start filing these reports and disclosures. Our attorney has informed the village manager we do need to change this policy. He suggested guidelines for writing a new policy, which I did. Our attorney approved what I wrote as acceptable. And I want to point out the new policy does not assign any specific powers to the treasurer. I did that deliberately to avoid the suggestion. I was drafting a policy to give the treasurer any new powers. And later in the meeting, I'm going to make a motion to adopt this policy while the Finance Committee determines if it is sufficient, or we were going to have to start enforcing this 30-year-old policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Councilman Member Measy and then Councilmember Tyler.
Two clarifications, Roy. First, I know it's just a matter of phraseology, but I don't believe we terminated the police policy. We suspended the police policy till we resolve the issue of insurance, and I think that makes a difference in terms of how we view what we did. The second thing is, I agree with your mathematics. I agree that we will be spending more money than we will be taking in, and we will be running a deficit. But when the federal government runs a deficit, it borrows money to make up the difference, and that's what one of the fiscal problems that the country is in. When we run a deficit, we have, as Dr. Mueller relentlessly points out, $3.5 million in the bank to cover that particular deficit. So I'd be happy when you say we're running a deficit and then add, of course, we have ample reserves to cover that deficit for the year. That would be a more honest, I shouldn't use the word honest, I know you're being honest. That would be a more accurate rendition of what our fiscal situation is.
Councilmember Tyler.
I was going to go back and thank you, Councilman Measy, because I'd like to find out when we voted to terminate the police, but you have already asked that question, so therefore it is still in the budget. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the treasurer's report? Seeing none. I'm sorry? Councilmember Sol.
Many, many moons ago, I think someone asked the treasurer about, like, where we would possibly be spending less money than what was in the budget, and the treasurer mentioned snow removal, and I'm wondering, where are we on snow removal, and what are you expecting?
Well, that's a good question. So
And I suggest buying less salt, okay?
Excuse me. Okay. Are you, Councilmember Sol, the question, yes. So Councilmember Schaefer, you have a response?
We have in our budget, if I remember, it's $35,000, which we cut from the prior years, which were $50,000. Of that 35, we spent 25 so far, and that was really just on the very first storm. The last one, it snowed and rained, and we spent nothing. So if the last storm was 25,000, the one that's coming is probably more severe. We are going to go over our budget of 35,000. So that's another error. Thank you for pointing that out.
So I just want to be clear. We are underspent right now.
We're 10,000 below our budget with
Currently, and there is a storm forecast. We don't know what our expenses will be.
full year budget, not the budget through July.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Any further questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Village Manager Mansfield, discussion, vote on a proposal from the League of Women Voters to run the council election.
Yes, we have the proposal from the league, as they have done many times in the past, and they've used the same format as in prior years. Their base cost is the same, $5,000 to run the election, $2,500 to manage the absentee ballots, and their expense cost is slightly higher this time because
Excuse
of
me, if you
higher.
can hold down the conversation so everybody can hear. Thanks.
Yeah, their expenses are a little bit higher this time because of increased postage, and they are once again proposing costs for producing a voter guide if requested by the candidates, which in the past has typically been requested, and for conducting a candidates forum if the candidates wish to have a candidates forum. The league has a fee for that to conduct the candidates forum. So those are all items that have typically been done in prior elections. So if those are all requested, the total would be $11,000, and there is a budget for this. I believe the budget is $13,000, so this would be within the budget, under the budget. And just to add that the reason this is coming up tonight is because we do need to announce in March, on beginning of March, with the March newsletter and on our website and other channels, all the election information, including the filing deadline for candidates, which will be April 4th. So essentially between the beginning of March and April 4th, we will have all the information for candidates to pick up the required forms and nomination petition and disclosure forms and financial disclosure forms, which have to be submitted as part of each candidate's package. And then the election date itself is May 12th, Monday, May 12th.
And is it, before I go further, is it your recommendation that we should adopt this contract?
Yes.
Okay.
I so
Any
move.
questions for the
I
village
so
manager?
move.
All right.
Question.
There's been a motion to support
Yeah.
it, and is there a second?
I was saying, but I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, Julian, you said that there was an increase. What was the difference? What did we pay last year?
I believe it was $500 increase. It was $1,000 before for expenses, and now it's $1,500.
Okay, so 500 increase. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's from 2 years ago.
That's from 2 years ago, and all the other costs are the same.
Thank you.
Any further questions? There's been a motion by Councilmember Measy and supported by Councilmember Tyler to approve the proposal from the League of Women Voters to run the village council election. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I'd like to clarify the motion. I think we said in May 2025 for $11,000 to have a complete motion.
Okay.
Is that acceptable, or do we need to vote again?
No.
I don't think we need to vote again,
Okay.
unless any member of the council objects.
Yeah, and I'm-
Okay.
And I will do a roll call on this, please. R?
Yes.
R 4, Measy?
Yes.
Measy 4, Schaefer?
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Solt 4, Tyler? Tyler 4, White
Yes.
4, Pestrunk?
Yes,
Pestrunk 4. Thank you.
7-0. Moving on to discussion vote on nomination to serve on the Community Advisory Committee, Mayor White.
Yes, we received a letter, email from a resident, Paul Brown, indicating that he was interested in becoming a member of the Community Advisory Committee. And I think Paul is certainly qualified to hold a position on this committee, and I would move that we accept his request and make him a member of the Community Advisory Committee. I think it's important to note that the Community Advisory Committee is reappointed or dissolved depending on what the newly elected council desires. So there is a possibility that the entire Community Advisory Committee could be reappointed or excused and replaced with brand new members. And considering this, I don't think we have to get too uptight about whether or not A notice went out to the community, as some of the council members are saying. Anyone who is interested in serving on the Community Advisory Committee, seeing that it's only guaranteed to be in place until May, is certainly willing to send us a letter of interest. And that is why I would recommend that we put him on this committee now.
Okay. Is that a motion on your part?
That is a
Mayor White?
motion,
Okay, and
yes.
Councilmember Measy. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, Councilmember Solt.
I believe we really should have a practice of having open and transparent solicitation for all committees and public involvement. But I understand it's only a few months in this case, so in this case, I don't think we should necessarily repost because it's only a few months. But in general, I think it's very important to do that.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Any other discussion on the motion? It's been, as I understand it, moved by Mayor White and supported by Councilmember Measy to appoint Paul Brown to the Community Advisory Committee for,
The language I have is to accept the request from Paul Brown to join the community. Do you want your language or
I
what?
prefer, what we are doing is appointing him
Okay,
to the committee.
okay, hold on. I'm sorry, just please, if you wouldn't mind saying it
Sure.
again.
The motion is to appoint, on a motion by Mayor White,
Mhm.
seconded by Councilmember Measy, to appoint Paul Brown to the Community Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
A roll call, R?
Yes.
R4, Measy? Yes. Measy 4, Schaefer?
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Solt 4, Tyler? Tyler 4, White?
Yes.
White 4, Pestrunk?
Yes.
Pestrunk 4.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Is a discussion vote on nominations to serve on the Transportation Management District Advisory Committee. Mayor White.
We had 2 residents who were long-term members of the Transportation Management District Advisory Committee, and one moved from the village. The other resident opted not to renew her term on the TMD, and we received interest from Paul Brown to be a member of this Transportation Management District Advisory Committee, and we also received a letter of interest from a resident, lost my page here.
Here. Melanie.
Effie
Effie
Pajitsas.
Pajitsas.
And we certainly appreciate these 2 residents throwing their names out for consideration. We also, I think, Council Chair Pestrunk realized that there is an opportunity for the village to appoint a representative of the village management or council to
A
the
representative of the village, representing the village council,
Rep-
and a second one is a village resident. So there are 2 positions available. One is council, representing council, and the other is a resident.
And seeing that, I think that my preference would be to nominate Paul Brown and also Julian Mansfield for the position who represents the village council. Effie is certainly qualified. I would hope that she would attend the meetings if she's still interested. But I think having Julian being the official voice of the village would be helpful going forward on this Transportation Committee, which I think is going to become more and more active as the large construction project on Wisconsin begins.
So there's been a motion to appoint Paul Brown and Julian Mansfield to the Transportation District Advisory Committee. Is there support for that? Okay. All right, thanks. Is there discussion? Yes, Councilmember Schaefer.
If I can ask, Mayor White, how did you decide which of the two candidates to select?
I think Paul's resume swayed me. I think both residents would do a fine job, but I think Paul's resume was particularly persuasive when I was looking at the candidates, and also considering that Julian is certainly in a position to well represent the village.
Okay.
Yes, Councilmember Salt.
I have one request to split the vote of the two people, and if there could be an explanation, what does this group do and what do they vote on? And how, what is the functional representation of the village? How does it sort of manifest in this committee?
Okay. Long story short, years ago, the county set up transportation management districts in several of these, basically the busy central business district developed areas, which include Friendship Heights, Bethesda, Silver Spring, and I believe Rockville. So each transportation management district is a product of the Montgomery County DOT, and each district has an advisory committee. So the TMD advisory committee is what we're talking about here, and it's composed of a mix of business representatives and community representatives. And essentially the main mission of the TMD is to try to reduce what they call single occupancy vehicles, meaning people driving themselves to work, and to incentivize and promote the use of mass transit, carpooling, biking, ride sharing, to reduce traffic flow. That's their central mission. And they have some programs that they try to incentivize businesses to provide transit subsidies to staff, things like that, to try to get people to drive less and use metro and buses more. They also kind of tangentially get involved in just general transportation issues around their area of coverage. So for instance, this particular group in Friendship Heights has been involved in the work on Willard Avenue, some traffic studies, improvements around the metro station, lobbying for a certain bus route or improvements to the metro itself. So those are the kind of things they get involved in, but they are advisory. They advise the Montgomery County. And the group, as I mentioned, is composed of representatives of businesses in the area, but each community, so Friendship Heights has 2 slots. I believe the town of Somerset has 1. Chevy Chase Village has 1. I think the Brookdale Citizens Association has a representative. So it's basically the communities in the Friendship Heights area are represented along with the major businesses.
Is there any further? Go ahead, Councilmember Salt.
One more. Don't we recommend to the Montgomery County Council, so it's not like we're appointing? Is that correct?
Yes.
Technically, yes, we recommend.
That would be in the motion. Right. So is there any further discussion? Then there's been a request to separate the two, so yep.
Since we had this one individual throwing their name in the hat for 2 different things, and we already selected that one, I think I would like the resident position to go to the other applicant.
Okay, so since we're going to be considering them separately, let's vote on the recommendation of Village Manager Mansfield first to be recommended for appointment to the Transportation District Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
And R?
Yes.
4, Measy?
Yes.
Measy 4, Schaefer?
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Salt 4, Tyler 4, White?
Yes.
White 4, Pestrunk?
Yes.
Pestrunk 4.
7-0.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, we have a recommendation, there's a motion to recommend Effie Pagitsas to the Transportation District Advisory Committee, and,
I think that wasn't the
No.
motion. Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, Paul Brown. Thank you very much. To appoint Paul Brown. That motion was seconded. Is there any discussion? None?
No.
Okay, Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, so I want to be clear, this is, I mean, Paul Brown is extremely well qualified, and I'm glad he is been approved for the CAC position, but, you know, we always talk about transparency, and if we have two members of the community that want to step up and take on roles, I think we should support that and not just dismiss one and give two slots to the same individual. So I would support Effie's nomination.
Well,
I'm
Are you
I'm explaining
proposing-
why I'm not supporting this
Okay.
nomination.
are you proposing an amendment to the motion,
Well,
or?
can you amend a different, to suggest a different,
Let's
no, you can't do
Yeah, okay, so,
Just vote and move on.
I'm
okay, thank
explaining
you.
why I don't support
you.
this
Okay.
motion.
Mayor White.
I don't think we're dismissing anyone. I think that we have experience with Paul attending council meetings. He has provided his resume, which is quite extensive. And I think when you look at both candidates side by side, I think Paul really is the more qualified candidate to be recommended to the county for appointment to this TMD.
Any further discussion on the motion to recommend Paul Brown to the Transportation District Advisory Committee? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
I'm
No.
against.
no. So would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sure. R,
No.
against. Measy?
Yes.
Measy, 4. Schaefer?
No.
Against. Solt, against. Tyler? Tyler, 4. White,
Yes.
4. Festrunk,
No.
against.
The tally is,
3,
the motion
4,
fails.
and 4 against.
The motion fails. Is there another motion that anyone would like? Yes, Councilman
So
Schaefer.
I'll make a motion to appoint, I'll probably butcher the name, but can you say it, Mayor White?
Pagitsas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
Effie
for
Pagitsas.
the position.
Okay. Is there support for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. There's been a motion and support for Effie Pagitsas to be appointed to the Transportation District Advisory Committee. It was moved by Councilmember Schaefer and supported by Councilmember Solt. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I mean, I don't know this person, and I'm leery about people who will not present a resume of some sort that tells me who they are, where they came from, what they've accomplished, and so on, with just a few bullet points. Maybe a highly qualified person, but I'll abstain on this because I don't feel I can vote for or against her.
Okay. Any further comments? If the council will allow, I actually spent time with both of the candidates. And Effie Pagitsas is an extraordinarily competent and experienced resident who has done exactly this kind of work in the city of Boston and in other places. She has a master's degree and a doctorate in this area and understands completely the mission of this district advisory committee and the range of issues that Transportation District Advisory Committee like this will perform. She also understands how she would need to represent the village of Friendship Heights and how she would need to keep the council informed about the work of the committee, and how she expressed an interest in certainly in working cooperatively with whoever the second person was. So I don't think, having spoken with her, I do think she is a good choice for this. It doesn't speak against Paul Brown or the qualifications that he has for it. It just speaks to the fact that if she is recommended for appointment, I think that she would do an excellent job, having spent time with her and spoken with her about it. So, Council Member Salt?
I've spoken with this person, and I agree with everything you said, so I won't repeat any of it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? So there's been a motion by Councilmember Schaefer and seconded by Councilmember Salt to appoint Effie Pajitsas to the Transportation District Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I'll do a roll call. R?
Yes.
R4, Maisy?
Abstain.
Abstain, Maisy abstain, Schaefer?
4.
Schaefer 4, Salt 4, Tyler? 4. Tyler 4, White?
4.
White 4, Pestrunk?
4.
4, thank you. And
Thank-
Chairman, if we could take a break in a few minutes, just for a
Yes,
little
so-
bit.
Yes, so let me give a 5-minute break. It's 8:51. I'd appreciate if council members would be back at 8:56 so we can start on time and move through the rest of the agenda deliberately. Thank you. order, and that will take us to a discussion vote on recommendation from the Personnel Committee regarding staff salaries. Mayor White?
Thank you. The compensation study was completed in July, and there were a number of recommendations made in this study, and one of them was to bring salaries to the recommended midpoint range. And I have given each of the council members a copy of page 32, where the details of these recommendations are made. This is a public document, so anyone who's interested in seeing the entire chart is welcome to go on our website and look under compensation study. And the recommended salary increases, I'll just read them out loud. To bring select staff to the midpoint range, for village manager, it was $12,400. Assistant village manager, chief innovation officer, $3,500. Facilities manager and financial assistant, $25,000. Assistant program director, $8,000. The assistant program director will become vacant in another month or so. And then finally, the front desk supervisor, $9,800. The Personnel Committee met and voted to increase these positions by half of the recommended amounts, so that the village manager would be bumped up $6,200, the assistant village manager $1,750, the facilities manager, financial assistant $12,500, and the front desk supervisor $4,900. And these increases or salary adjustments would become effective July 1st. And I would make this in the form of a motion.
Is there support for that motion? It's supported by Councilman Measy, as moved by Mayor White. Discussion.
Okay,
Yes,
can I clarify the motion? Are
Yeah.
we saying the individuals and the amounts, that's the motion, or just the half of what was recommended for the within?
The Personnel Committee recommended half, which is
Okay.
the amounts that I read,
Okay.
6,200.
Is that okay that the motion's just that, or do we need to specify the names of the people and the amounts?
I don't think we need to read the
Okay.
names. The
Okay.
positions have been read.
Okay, I just want
And
to
it
understand.
is, it's public information.
Fine, I just
Yeah.
want to understand the motion, okay.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Tyler.
Um,
Excuse me.
Michael asked me to
Okay.
add that it was a unanimous decision by the Personnel Committee.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tyler.
I just wanted to make sure I had the right numbers. Could you repeat the dollar amounts, please, again?
Yes, you want to look at the far right column.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So half of that would be $6,200 for the village manager, $1,750 for the assistant village manager, chief innovation officer, $12,500 for the facilities manager, and $4,900 for the front desk supervisor.
These would be effective July 2025?
Yes.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, there's been a motion by Mayor White, supported by Councilmember Measy, to bring, to increase the effective July 2025, the salary for village manager. I'm sorry? Village manager, $6,200. The assistant village manager of $1,750. The facilities manager, $12,500. And the front desk supervisor by $4,900. Do I have that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and Councilwoman Salt, do you have the motion?
I
and-
believe I do.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Council-
So,
sorry.
will we have, maybe this is all laid out already, but will we have a discussion, will the Personnel Committee have a discussion about the range in which we will recruit to fill vacant positions or soon-to-be vacant positions? I know you mentioned we've got an upcoming vacancy. So we'll set the recruitment range for that position as we go forward? Is that the plan?
My understanding is it would be what it is now. Well, no, let me take that back. The Personnel Committee voted to adopt the salary grade chart that was recommended in the compensation study. That is not on this page. That's a public document. So the Assistant Program Director position is listed as salary grade 3, so you could see the range.
So we're not addressing that median today. We'll just recruit against that range and make a final determination when we've identified a candidate to fill that position?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Council Member Schaefer.
Thank you. So I would just like to remind the Personnel Committee that at the Finance Committee meeting, that whatever, I forgot the title, Assistant Program Director was a 25-hour-a-week position, which under the village policies entitles them to full-time benefits, 100% health care, all the other full-time benefits, and there was I suggested we have a discussion if we either want to hire the replacement at a lower hourly rate or possibly bump up the threshold for full-time benefits, and we agreed that would be a conversation for the Personnel Committee to have, so I would just like to publicly state that's something the Personnel Committee should take up as part of the decision to post the new position. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I just want to make sure I understand, Councilmember Schaefer, what you just said. If, in fact, the, what's Dale's title is Assistant Program Director. If the village manager determines that that position should be refilled at the present with the present conditions that exist right now, there's no need to bring that back to council because he's just filling a vacant position. If he were to want to change something about that position, salary and benefits for sure, then that would have to come back to the council. Otherwise, his responsibility is to manage the village, and where there is a vacant position, to proceed to fill it. At least that's my understanding.
Well, I take your point, but it's part of a larger conversation, is how we want to fill that, and do we want to continue saying 25 hours makes someone eligible for full-time employments, which includes lifetime health care subsidy. So it's a decision that, and I'm not, by the way, suggesting we do anything retroactive. This is prospective. So I'm saying it should be part of that discussion before we post the position.
Councilmember Salt.
You can't divorce those decisions.
Councilmember Salt. There is a motion and there's support for it, and so now we're in discussion. Yep.
As to this question, my understanding is that for this position, there was, shall I call, hours accretion. It was posted at 20 hours. That was the understanding, that it wouldn't be benefits, and then somehow, okay, what did it have on the posting?
That's not true. It was posted at 25 hours with full
Excuse me,
benefits.
there's a point of
Point of
order.
order, there's a motion on the floor that doesn't have anything to do with Dale's position. So can we vote on that first, and then if you
Sure,
want to raise
we can.
anything else, we can do
Okay.
it then?
So, thank you, Councilmember Mizzi. We have a motion on the floor. Does everybody understand what the motion is? then all those in favor say aye.
Could you repeat
Aye.
that?
Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Was it on the salary?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's the salaries
It's
up,
so long,
up by
okay.
half, yeah, okay.
Do we
All
vote?
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
If I could proceed.
Sure.
R,
Yes.
R4, Measy,
Yes.
Measy 4, Schaefer,
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Solt 4, Tyler, Tyler 4, White,
Yes.
White 4, Pestrunk,
Yes.
Pestrunk 4.
Motion carries 7-0. Moving on then to discussion vote on revisions to the village investment policy.
Does it at the next one?
Yeah, that's the next one because, I'm sorry, public safety, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Yes, council
I
member,
would refer, I would like to put a motion to refer this to the Public Safety Committee.
is there support for that motion?
I'll second that.
Supported by Councilman R. There's been a motion to refer the recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to the public, from the Public Safety Committee to hire off-duty police officers to the Public Safety Committee. Is there any discussion on that?
Just a question, what's the expectation from the referral back to the committee?
So that they can discuss whatever comes to them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a number of questions that I'd be inclined to pose to the committee for consideration, so the committee's willingness to take those questions back before we're asked to weigh in on this, it would help me at least.
So any further discussion on this?
Could I just state the motion as I understand it?
Yes,
To
please.
refer it back to the Public Safety Committee.
To refer the topic of hiring off-duty police officers to the Public Safety Committee?
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? Okay.
Okay,
And I would just ask that if this motion carries, that anyone with an interest in this issue organize their thoughts and provide it to the Public Safety Committee so that we can have sort of a meaningful discussion about the implications here.
thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, it's a motion to refer the hiring of off-duty police officers to the Public Safety Committee, moved by Councilmember Tyler and seconded by Councilmember R. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Mr. R?
Yes.
R4, Measy,
Yes.
Measy 4, Schaefer,
Yes.
Schaefer 4, Solt 4, Tyler
Yes.
4, White
Yes.
4, Pestrunk
Yes.
4.
7-0. That takes us to the village investment policy. Councilmember Measy, I see you.
I move that we refer this policy to the Finance Committee for its consideration and then bring it back to the council at its
I
next
second.
meeting.
It's been moved
And I
to,
second.
okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Measy and supported by Councilmember Tyler to refer the the proposed village investment policy to the Finance Committee. Is there discussion? Yes?
Yeah, so I think I've spoken to some other council members. I think there's a sense that we have an either-or here, that we have I hope we agree that we need to replace this 35-year-old policy. It's what our attorney has said in writing. And yes.
Would you simply speak to the motion to
I'm
refer?
speaking to the motion. I think it's a mistake to refer it back to the committee because voting on it and referring it back to the committee are not mutually exclusive. We have an opportunity to implement a policy which replaces the one we have, and that was part of my motion, while putting into place today a policy that is not 30 years
Well,
old
we
and
have,
out of date.
okay, thank
So
you.
I'm against the motion. I would ask people to
Thank you.
vote against.
Councilmember Solt.
I'm concerned about willful noncompliance with an existing policy. I think that is a terrible practice. Right now, for those people potentially running for the council, they have to disclose their current financial holdings that we have not done, we didn't even know about. You know, if in my world of being a bank regulator, if a board was willfully in noncompliance, they would take steps to remove on a policy. So I'm really against this, and I would like to move to cancel our existing policy.
There's a motion
Okay,
already.
okay, and then I will proceed with the
There's a
next
motion
one.
already on the floor with respect to that. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say I have similar concerns about carrying forward our old policy based on my understanding of the obligations it imposes on council members into the nomination period for new members. I think it's important, now that we're aware of these concerns, the legal issues associated, the references to outdated and overruled laws and the additional requirements it imposes on members, that at a minimum, individuals thinking about running in this next election should know the circumstances into which they're entering. And so if the result is a referral back to the committee, I would just hope that the committee would move quickly to replace the policy either with an interim or to a long-term solution. That'd be my ask.
Thanks. Any further discussion? Yes,
Yeah, I
Councilmember
mean,
Maisy.
Dan, I think Roy did a very good job on this, but there are questions that I'd like to have clarified. This is something new. The Finance Committee is mentioned here as the key place where a lot of this stuff is coming to. I think, and the Finance Committee has not discussed it, and you open the board book and it's like a 5-page statement. This is not a simple new policy here. Now, I'm conscious of Martha's concern about us being willfully thank you, Martha, willfully non-compliant, but it looks like we've been willfully non-compliant for several decades, so one more month will not make me feel that much more terrible. So I think I'd be committed. We're having a Finance Committee meeting at the end of this month. We will bring it back to the council in March, and I'm sure we'll be able to vote on it at that point.
Yes, Councilman.
And I'm generally a proponent of the committees doing the work in their space and bringing thoughtful recommendations to the council. So, with a commitment that we are prepared to make a decision following, a brief consideration by the Finance Committee. That makes sense to me, Michael.
Thanks. Councilmember Salt and then Councilmember Schaefer.
So I would just then publicly ask members of the council, especially members of the Finance Committee, you have the policy. Any questions you have, any discussion items you send to me well in advance of the meeting, so we have a goal of making a recommendation at the February 27th meeting.
Councilmember Salt? Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Maisy, supported by Councilmember Tyler, to refer the village investment policy to the Finance Committee. The proposed investment policy to the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. We have to, we got to finish this. Go ahead. Call the roll? No?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Four.
4.
4. Motion carries 5-2. Councilmember Tyler.
I have a question. It says that it's discussion to send this back on the village investment policy, but if I heard correct, Councilman Salt said it's on the proposed policy. So that's two different statements.
It should be the proposed policy.
It's the proposed.
So this is on the proposed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you for the correction.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Chairman,
That takes us on,
excuse me, Chairman,
yes.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the 1995 investment policy, pending
Is there support?
consideration of the proposed changes.
Is there support?
And also, we are not in willful compliance for all these years. We didn't know about it. We're only in willful non-compliance after you learn about the problem. And we all know about the problem. So my motion is to rescind.
Is there support for that motion?
I'll second.
There's been a motion to rescind the current policy supported by Councilmember Schaefer. Is there discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have an obligation to operate under an investment policy? By voting to rescind this policy, are we then violating our legal obligations?
I think we need one that has,
You don't have the floor.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's my question.
That's your question? Okay. Does anybody have an answer to that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe we, excuse me. Yep. Councilmember Schaefer and then
So,
Misi.
as I said, at this point, having no policy is that we are, maybe when we should, is a far better place to be than having a policy which we are openly and willfully violating, and which is written to comply with 30-year-old laws. So, notwithstanding the fact, I think we do have to have one. I would rather operate with no policy.
Thank you. Councilmember Misi?
I understand the point, but I guess I'd rather have a policy in place than, and if we're called on it or somebody's upset with us about that, we say, we understand that, we're revising it, and by the time they get to us, we will have gotten rid of the old policy and have the new policy there. I just don't think we should go a month without having a policy,
Thank
even
you.
a flawed policy.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Salt?
This is a policy I think most people weren't even aware that existed. So I would say, I would put it in a little different words than Councilmember Schaefer did. I think having a wildly inaccurate and burdensome policy that we know about or not complying, and keeping it on the books, even for a short time, is, I would call it a worse violation than having nothing. And
Okay.
I really think we should be focusing on following the law and rules.
Thanks. Is there further discussion? If not, there's a motion on the floor from Councilmember Salt, supported by Councilman Schaefer, to rescind the current investment policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say same sign. Aye.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
No. Motion fails. That moves us on to a discussion vote on a parking policy. Mayor White? I'm sorry, there's been, Mayor White?
Martha, I hope you agree with me. I think this is a topic that has the potential to impact every resident. And I think it really needs to go back, well, it needs to start at the Public Safety Committee. We need to hear from residents in an open session. We need to hear from Monica. And I think it needs to be hashed out at the committee level and not here going on 9:30 at night with 4 residents sitting in the room. I think it's too important a topic to not start at the committee level. And I also think it has the potential to impact the safety of our streets. So for that reason, I am making the motion that we send this to the Public Safety Committee.
Is there support for that motion? There's been a motion to refer a parking policy to the Public Safety Committee by Mayor White. It's been supported by Councilmember Tyler. Is there discussion? Yes, Councilmember Salt.
This is my topic. I think I was entitled to make a motion. I provided materials to everyone in advance, which a lot of topics don't even get that sort of consideration. I think I'm entitled to have a vote on what I was going to propose. You certainly are free to vote it down and then refer it to a committee, but I don't think this is the proper process.
Thank you. There was a motion to refer, and it was adopted, so the motion,
It wasn't adopted, it was seconded.
I'm sorry. it was seconded. So there's a motion to refer it to the Public Safety Committee, made by Mayor White, supported by Councilmember Tyler. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Here, no, against. Mhm.
Do you want to call the roll?
R,
No.
against, Measy,
Yes.
4, Schaefer,
No.
against, Solt, against, Tyler,
Yes.
Tyler, 4, White,
Yes.
White, 4, Pestrunk,
Yes.
4.
Motion carries 4-3. That takes us to a discussion vote on analysis of security options. Count. Ca- Is there support for that motion?
Do we have a piece of paper on that, or?
No, no. There's been a motion to refer an analysis of security options to the Public Safety Committee. Is there support for that motion?
Yes.
It's been moved by Councilmember Tyler and supported by Mayor White to refer an analysis of security options to the Public Safety Committee. Is there discussion on that? Yes, Councilmember Schaefer.
I'd like a little clarity on what is being referred. I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure
what-
what security
Nor
options
do
mean.
I.
That's what it said.
Agreed.
It said analysis.
Okay, so is this an issue where the PSC is requesting questions from?
We always request anything that people have to give to the committee. And
Okay.
if you have something to give to the committee, we are welcome to it. We've received a lot of things from people.
Okay,
But what did the?
But I have no idea what
What
this
is
is,
this
but it's
about?
a security-related issue.
I think perhaps if it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, then ideas about what this means could be discussed. Is that your intention? Okay. So,
And as I would use Councilmember R's words, is that we request that. Councilmember R's words, and I may not say it correctly, but if you have comments and papers and ideas and thoughts, please send them to us so that we can discuss it at the meeting and we can cover whatever needs to be covered.
okay, any further discussion? There's a motion by Councilmember Tyler, supported by Mayor White, to refer an analysis of security options to the Public Safety Committee. All those in favor say
Well,
aye.
Aye.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry. So, this may be the same question everyone else is asking, but does that mean that we are asking the Public Safety Committee to conduct an analysis of security options in the village and deliver that to the council on some timeline and with some constraints, some expectations? I don't know.
Councilmember Tyler?
We don't know, because this is a very open-ended statement, but it is security-related, so if whatever it is to be discussed, tell us what it is and what you're looking for.
Yeah. So someone put this on the agenda, so I think,
Councilmember Sol?
It's mine. I don't think this is an adequate hearing for it, so I make a motion to table this.
There's already a motion on the floor.
It's a subsidiary motion, isn't it?
No, it's a
Okay.
motion on the floor
Okay.
to refer it to Public Safety Committee.
You don't know what you're referring, though.
So, well, it's, as it states here, an analysis of security options. And as I understand what's being referred, it is to find out what this is and to discuss it at the Public Safety Committee meeting. So, I'll call the question. All those in favor of referring it to the Public Safety Committee, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
no.
Opposed?
Okay. Do you want to call a roll?
Yes. R,
No.
against, I'm sorry, R against, Measy?
Yes.
Measy, 4, Schaefer?
No.
Schaefer against, Solt against, Tyler?
Yes.
Tyler, 4, White?
Yes.
White, 4. I'm sorry, Pestrunk?
4.
4.
The count is?
4-3.
Okay, the motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
The motion's adjourned.
Is there support?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.